Good afternoon and welcome to Hallam News. I'm Tom Dawson.
And I'm Ellen Ringleby. Coming up on the programme today. A Starbucks coffee shop in Sheffield has been vandalised with graffiti.
The annual Reclaim the Night March takes place in the city.
And a primary school has introduced a new way of keeping children fit.
But first, the Starbucks coffee shop on Surrey Street was found vandalised with graffiti this morning.
The words "pay your taxes" were sprayed over the front of the shop, thought to be a dig at recent stories about multinational companies not paying a fair amount of tax. Robert Aston reports.
Starbucks in Sheffield has received an unexpected early Christmas present from vandals today, following a dispute over taxes. Vandals painted the shop in green paint in the early hours of last night, leaving an obvious message on the front of the shop.
They're not playing fair, everyone else has to, but they're not. They're getting away with it. So I don't normally support graffiti, but actually I'm quite secretly pleased.
I just like good hot chocolate, that's it. It's like the closest place to my school, so
Because I like the coffee too much, shame to say. But yeah, I think they should pay the tax.
Starbucks have recently been in the news following a tax evasion issues. They currently have 750 shops in the UK, with 8 in Sheffield alone. A total of £8.5 million has been paid by the company in corporation tax since 1998. Despite this, Starbucks made a profit of £3 billion last year. Starbucks spokesperson told us, "It's a pity this vandal is so ill-informed. We pay our taxes and have paid over £11 million in the corporation tax this year." Robert Aston, Hallam News.
Latest figures released by the charity Trussell Trust show that food bank usage in our region has tripled over the past 2 years.
MPs are calling for the government to treat food poverty the same way that they do terrorism. Shannon Cook has been to find out why.
For this struggling mother, she lives hand to mouth. With 2 hungry children, she is one of the 60,000 people in Yorkshire who've used food banks this year, that figure being 3 times higher than in 2013.
Sometimes I'll wake up on a Sunday and I will literally have £5 in my purse. And I think, right, what can I do with £5?
Not much when you're living on the breadline. 1 in 5 mothers in Britain, just like Jeanette, regularly skip meals just to feed their children.
You want to make nutritional meals for your kids. You hear it all the time on the TV, how they should be eating the 5 a day and fresh meats. But, sometimes you just literally can't do it.
From the outside, you wouldn't even know. But here at the Fairshare Food Warehouse in Barnsley, they've already given out over 3,000 food parcels this year alone. Inside, volunteers are hard at work making sure there's enough supplies to fill food banks across South Yorkshire, providing basic provisions to the county's hungriest people.
A lot of the people that come to food banks have stories which are really heartbreaking, and we've had people coming to food banks who've been forced to choose between eating and feeding their children, and that's something we see very regularly.
Food banks are struggling because there's more people using them who are in low-paid and insecure jobs. Experts are placing the blame on the government's welfare system and rising living costs.
We are seeing a lot more families telling us that they have to make this difficult choice between things like eating and heating, putting food on the table or paying the bills. A part of this is driven by problems in benefit administration, sanctions being applied often inappropriately that leave people having to go to food banks.
But with the most expensive day of the year still yet to come, Jeanette tells me how she tries to balance the books.
It kind of controls you a little bit. It kind of takes over your life. Because when you're going week to week to week on a small amount, you're thinking, right, I'm going to get this money on Tuesday. And I'll do a list, right, this has got to be paid out, this has got to be paid out, right, that leaves me that much for shopping. It takes over your thinking for most of the week.
But for now, the single mother's main focus remains on trying to solve the puzzle of where her next meal is coming from. Shannon Cook, Shoe TV News.
Police are looking for a 62-year-old man who went missing on Wednesday afternoon after leaving his home on Chaucer Road in Sheffield. South Yorkshire Police say James Carruthers was last seen wearing a black jacket with his Triton security on it. He was last seen on his way to his job as a security guard.
Residents on Newfield Green Road in Sheffield have been angered after trees on their street were chopped down without warning. The letter from the City Council asking for their thoughts on the potential axing didn't arrive until the day after the 5 trees had already been cut down. Residents are being asked for their views. If 50% of people on a street have concerns about trees being cut down, it will be referred back to an independent panel, which has been set up in the wake of the ongoing felling controversy.
On Monday evening, Sheffield played host to its annual Reclaim the Night March, which has been going on since the 1970s.
The march went through the city centre, along West Street and ended at Sheffield University. I went along to find out more. An evening in the city centre would usually be quite quiet, but this group of people were determined to make themselves heard. Around 50 people gathered together outside the Sheffield Cathedral before marching through the city. Their aim? To march for equality for women and their right to feel safe walking alone at night.
People were really interested. There was quite a few young people in town who wanted to know what was going on, and I had a really good conversation with a few schoolgirls, and they were just like, yeah, we don't feel safe, and what you're doing is great, so just love those moments, they're brilliant.
It was mixed. I think there were lots of reactions. There was one guy who was like, I completely agree, and everyone were like, yeah, and that was really cool as well.
It's still quite sad that we were having to hold this march in 2015, but there you go, we've got to do what we've got to do in order to highlight all the oppressions in today's society.
Reclaim the Night marches originated in the 1970s, when the Yorkshire Ripper was murdering young women who were on their own at night. Women were outraged that the police's advice was to stay inside, and instead they rallied together and walked as a group at night in protest. The march ended at Sheffield University Students' Union, where there were a number of speakers to give their thoughts on feminism and what we can do to stop violence and sexual assault against women.
It gives women a voice, a collective voice, to say that they're not going to actually stand for these patriarchal attitudes that are out there on the street. The route was really good because it really went past a lot of places where, women do get harassed. On West Street, I've been harassed on West Street, so I know exactly what it's like. But when you've got groups of men hanging around outside, it can be very intimidating walking past them.
The march perhaps couldn't have come at a more poignant time, after the body of Sheffield Hallam student Caroline Everest was found after she was on a night out at the end of November. While there may still be a long way to go to achieve equality for all genders, it's clear that marches like this are the first step. This is Eleanor Ingleby for Hallam News.
A new campaign where the entire menu is made up from only waste or surplus food has been set up. The Real Junk Food Project locates food from sources such as local businesses, supermarkets and catering events. It was introduced to Sheffield after the project was a success in Leeds 2 years ago. The cafe is run by volunteers and operates a pay-as-you-feel policy, which asks customers to pay for their meals by way of donations, showing off their talents, or even by doing the dirty dishes.
A primary school in Sheffield has introduced a 1 mile walk into their day as a way of keeping children fit.
Westways Primary School in Crooks hopes the daily mile run will help their pupils stay healthy and alert for their day at school. Ollie Constable reports.
So what we're going to do, so that we can get some fresh air and get some exercise, we're going to do the daily mile.
At Westway Primary in Crooks, they're dropping everything and heading outside to run their daily mile. The idea is that children can run, walk or skip around the playground to help their concentration in lessons.
It's really important that the children get used to a regular exercise. So the big idea behind it is that it is daily. And if they do exercise on a daily basis, then that will stand them in good stead for life. It means that they're more likely to do things like go to the gym every week, more likely to play for sports teams every week. And obviously, as we know, in this country we've got an obesity crisis, and hopefully this will make a contribution towards solving that.
The idea comes from primary schools in Scotland, and at Westways they've been running it for a month, with teachers saying they're seeing improvements in the students' work. The mile is done at random points in the day, with each year group going out separately. So far, each child has run almost a marathon, and it's not stopping yet.
It keeps you fit, and it's good to let all, it concentrates you in class.
When you come and do these runs, do you want to go in and have a McDonald's, or would you rather have a couple of apples and banana?
I would have a couple of apples and banana. If you had McDonald's, it'll get you a lot fatter, and it's got a lot fat in.
It's not just a time to exercise and keep fit, but it also gives the kids a chance to socialise with their classmates. And so far, it's been a hit. Ollie Constable, Hallam News.
Well, keeping with the sporty theme, let's go to Joe with the sport.
How good was that, by the way?
I mean,
PE instead of lessons.
Dream day.
That is the dream. That is everybody's dream. Sheffield United's third round FA Cup tie against Manchester United has been selected for television. The Blades will face the Red Devils at Old Trafford in front of the BT Sport cameras on Saturday the 9th of January. They also appear on television this Sunday against Coventry City. There's plenty of football in the region this weekend, so let's take a look at the rest of the fixtures. Rotherham are away at Blackburn Rovers. That's tonight at 7:45 p.m. Sheffield Wednesday can leapfrog Cardiff if they beat the Bluebirds away from home tomorrow. Barnsley are away against Colchester and Doncaster host Crewe in the rest of Saturday's action. Then there's Sheffield United's midday kick-off against Coventry City on Sunday. Cricket now, and England hero Joe Root was back in his hometown of Sheffield to promote the release of his new book, Bringing Home the Ashes. The Yorkshire batsman was in the Orchard Square branch of Waterstones to sign copies of the book and meet with fans.
Obviously it was a fantastic achievement, I think, from the start of the summer, coming off the back of that World Cup, the devastation of that, and bombing out of a group stage to being so successful at the end of the summer against Australia, who were heavy favourites, was a great achievement from the side, and to be able to contribute to that was really pleasing. No, I don't think it brings pressure. I think the more you play and the more you become part of a side, you get that added responsibility, and you're expected to be more consistent. So I think that just comes with the territory, and you just have to learn to deal with it and take it on your chin and on your shoulders.
Thanks for that, Joe. We can now cross to Petra Hales and have a look at this week's weather.
It's looking like a bright day today with some sunny spells. There may be some light scattered rain, especially among the northern and western areas, although this should ease off by the time we get to the evening. The Met Office have ordered a yellow weather warning with the possibility of some snow, especially among the higher grounds. Temperatures are around 7 degrees and will go down to between 2 and 4 degrees as we get towards tomorrow morning. It's going to be a blustery few days, so the wind might make it feel a little bit chillier than it actually is. So if you're going to be out and about, it might be a good idea to wrap up warm. Petra Hales for Shoe TV.
Rather here than me, it looks a bit windy up there.
I know. Thanks very much for that, Petra. Well, that rounds up your local news, sport and weather for Sheffield. I'm Tom Dawson.
And I'm Eleanor Ingleby. Goodbye.
Goodbye.